My name is Chris Gratzik, and I am the client manager that covers government accounts in Florida. I'm going to take you through Westlaw. I'm on the sign-in screen. If you haven't used it yet, it's westlaw.com. And if you haven't signed in yet, you should have received a registration key, an email with a registration key. That registration key is case sensitive. So when you set up your username and password, make sure that you put it in exactly how it's listed in the email. And so to create the username and password that you will log in with, because you're not going to log in with what was emailed to you, that's just to create a username and password. You would come to westlaw.com and click create a OnePass profile. And it takes you through the steps. It asks you to enter the registration key. It asks you to enter a username, which is again case sensitive. So you can see I have a capital K and capital G in my username, and then your password, and it has number, capital letter, and symbol in your password, and it checks off if you have an approved password, and then you just enter the information that it asks for. And so then once you've created your OnePass username and password, when you come to westlaw.com, on the home page here, you'll enter your username and password. You can save it if you want, and then hit sign on. So once you sign in, you're not going to see this screen here. I have two passwords tied to my OnePass, so don't worry that you don't see this. Once you sign in, you will see this screen, and this is asking for a client ID. The client ID is meant to identify your research. The system will save your research for a 1-year period of time. And so if you use the client ID to put in an issue or describe what you're researching, you'll be able to go into your history and filter it down by that issue or topic. So instead of having to scroll through all of your research for the past year, you can pick that client ID and filter it and get just what you did during that research session. So you can keep the same thing if you want, but if you want the ease of filtering things down, I recommend putting in a specific client ID each time you sign on. You do have to put something in there, though. It won't let you go by this screen unless you have something in there. If you were researching something a month ago and you want to continue, from the drop down you can click that previous client ID. You can select it out of there so you can continue keeping everything together, or you can put in a new client ID if it's a new issue. Then hit continue, and you're now on the home page. If you haven't logged in before, it's going to try to play a getting started video the first time that you sign in. You can watch that if you want. If you close it out and you want to go back to it later, you have a link to it. You have a link to training down here in the training and support, and it has all of those videos in there, so you can go back and watch anything that you want. It's also going to have a default jurisdiction set for you. Most of the time that's all state and all federal. You can change that by clicking in the jurisdiction box here and selecting the jurisdiction that you want. If you check Florida and you check include related federal, that's only going to give you the federal courts in Florida. So if you want the entire 11th Circuit, make sure you come over here and select 11th Circuit, and that will give you all of the federal courts in the 11th Circuit. You can select up to 3 jurisdictions, and then once you save that, that is your default jurisdiction. So every time you run a search, it's going to run through the jurisdiction that you have selected, and it runs through everything in these first 2 columns. So if you're wanting to run a search in, say, Georgia, you would need to go in. If you have your jurisdiction set to Florida, you would need to go in and change that. But if you're always staying in Florida, then you don't have to go in. In the past, you had to say, I want to search Florida cases or Florida statutes or Florida AG opinions or whatever it was that you wanted to search. Now, once you have that jurisdiction selected, it's going to run through that jurisdiction, everything in these first 2 columns. So if you have a citation and you just want to do a find by citation, this box across the top is where you do everything. You can run word searches here. You can do a find by citation. You can do a find by party name. You can look for a particular resource. For instance, if you wanted to search Florida jurisprudence and you didn't know where it was, you can just start typing in Florida jurisprudence and it will bring that up, and then you can click it in and run a search there. You can also ask questions. If you wanted to know, what is the statute of limitations for damages for breach of contract, you could type that in and run a search, and it gives you statutes and cases related to that issue. That's in what's called Westlaw Answers. So if you have a case name, or a case citation, you can type it in. You don't have to use proper Blue Book format, so you can run it all together. You can use lowercase letters. It doesn't have to be written nicely. And then just run search. Oops. I reversed the numbers there. Okay, and so that pulls up your citation. So you can go directly into the case, statute, whatever it is that you're looking for, just type it in, and you have your document there. So if you just have the citation for something, you can type it in that way. Or let's say you didn't know the citation and you just knew that it was Bush v. Gore. You can type that in, and you can see I searched from the document. You don't have to go back to the home page. Because you have this default jurisdiction, it automatically runs through that. So I don't have to go back to the home page as a starting point like you had to when you were in Westlaw Classic. So I can start an entirely new search from this page if I want to. I don't have to go back to the first page. Now, if you have a lot of citations that you need to pull from the home page, and to get to the home page, you just click on the logo here in the top corner. If you have a lot of citations to pull, if you click on Tools and then scroll down to Find and Print, this allows you to pull up to 100 citations at once. If you have the citations electronically, you can just copy and paste them. Otherwise, just type the searches in and separate by a semicolon or enter in between. And then if you scroll down a little bit, it allows you to choose what you want to come back. In cases, do you want the full text? In statutes, do you want the full document, which would include the annotations? If you're printing them, I would not recommend doing that because you're going to go through a few trees to print out a few statutes. So you can choose statutory text only, and that's the default, so that you just get the text of the statute. And then you can choose if you want the key cite information, which is the citator service telling you if the case or statute is still good law. And then you choose your destination. Do you want to print, email, or download? Enter the information depending on how you're delivering. And if you want it as an attachment, do you want it as a Word or WordPerfect or PDF document? Then submit, and it will deliver all of the documents at once, so you don't have to go through one by one and pull up 100 citations. Okay, so as far as searching, we'll go into issue searching in the next class. In this class, I'm going to go through sort of non-traditional ways to find sources. So we talked about the find by citation. We talked about find by party name. You can also go in, and I just clicked on statutes and court rules from the home page, and click on Florida. And if this is something that you use a lot, you may want to add it to your favorites. You can see I have it added to my favorites. If you don't already have it to your favorites, right there where I have the yellow star, it would say add to favorites, and you can click that link and save it to your favorites, and then you'll have a link to it on the home page, so you don't have to click statutes, Florida, each time you go into there. So I can go in and browse by the table of contents, or on the right-hand side, I can also go in and browse by the statute's index. And you can see it's in alphabetical order, so I can click a letter and it will scroll me down, and then I can scroll through. But that's another way that you can search. I can type search terms in at the top here to narrow things down, but that's another way that you can get into statutes. Yes? No.
We just go to the regular Westlaw thing from ground zero and put a statutory cite in that top box, put it bullet?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Any citation. I just used a case citation, but yes, if you typed in a Florida statute citation or any statute citation, it will pull that. Mm-hmm. You can also, from this home screen, you'll note, or from this statute screen, on the right-hand side, you'll notice that there is a link to Florida Statutes Annotated Historical. If you click that, again, this is probably one, if you're going to use a lot, you want to save to your favorites so you don't have to go through the steps each time. But if you click that, you can see in Florida, you can get back to 1987. So when you put in a search, a term search or a citation for a statute, from the home screen, it's going to pull up whatever the current version of the statute is. If you need to get a prior version, if you come into the Statutes Annotated Historical and select the year and run your search, it will bring up the citation as it was at that point in time. So I can either type my search in up at the top, or you can use a template-driven search. One thing that's nice with a template-driven search in statutes is you can do a statutory text-only search. The annotations are great when you're trying to interpret or see how courts have interpreted the statutes, but sometimes you want your search terms to appear just in the text of the actual text of the statute. So if you do a search with your terms just in the statutory text, it's just going to search the text of the statute, and then you can branch out from there and look at the annotations and see how it's been interpreted. But this would allow you to make sure your search terms are appearing in the text of the statute, not just the annotations. You can do the same thing for regulations. So if I click on regulations from the home page, and go into Florida. Again, I can search from this screen. If I type in my search up here, it's going to search the entire Florida admin code. If I want to narrow down what I'm searching, I can select. Right now, it would just be searching Title 25, or I can continue to narrow down and go into an actual document. So if I wanted to search just a chapter, now at the top you'll see I'm searching just this chapter. So if I issue a term search here, it's searching just that chapter. And of course I picked one that everything's repealed in. There we go, down at the bottom we've got some. But I can click into any part. So now if I'm just searching that subpart, or you may have noticed, let me go back just a second. There was a plus sign there. If I expand that plus sign, you can see what's under and click into those as well. Let me see where let me go back to the, I'll try this one. So you can, if I click on, right here, the chapter's already expanded. So if you wanted to search everything in that chapter, just put a check. And then when you run your search, it's just searching that chapter. Oh, view the entire chapter? Let's see. So I can go there. once you're in here, you'll have term arrows or section arrows. And so you would be able to browse like you're in the book and turn the page that way. And then, yeah, that's just going to give me that one section. So that would be the best way that you would do it, is to browse, or you can click on table of contents once you're in there, so you can see what you're going into next. Maybe you don't want the next section, but you want to from the one that you're in, and you can link in that way. Mm-hmm. Yes. Let me go back to the home page there. So when I click on regulations and then Florida, over on the right-hand side, you have Florida historical regulations. The regulations don't go back as far. They go back to 2010. But same thing, you would just click on the year and then run your term search. And again, you can use the field restrictions if you want, or you can run the whole document. And if you're not sure where in the document the field is or what's contained in there, there's always this little PDF to the right there, and it shows you the breakdown. So if you entered your terms in each field, it shows you the portion of the document that you're searching. So once you're in a document, and from this screen, this is the overview screen that you land on when you run a search, whether it's a word search or a party name search, you land on an overview screen, and it shows you the first two most relevant cases, and then each of the most relevant documents for each document type. If something is not in your plan, you would see on the right-hand corner a red banner that says out of plan, so you know that you don't have access to it. I have my password set to most detail so that you can see more terms around your search terms, so you can decide if it's not in your plan, maybe there's somewhere else you can chase it down at. And with the most detail, it lets you see a little bit of context around your terms to see maybe if it's worth trying to find somewhere. On the left-hand side, you have your results broken down by document type. So if I want to go into cases, I would click cases. If I wanted to go into statutes, I would click statutes, etc. And it tells you how many of each document it has. If I just want to go into this first one, I can click on the case name and go right into the case. And once I'm in here, I'm able to return to list would take me back to my result list. So if I wanted to go into statutes or the administrative code or whatever, I could click return to list and I'd be back at my result list. Or if I want to browse through each of those 73 cases, I can click the document arrow and go to each one. I can also search by, browse by my search terms, which in this example, I just did a party name search. So if I hit that, it would take me to the next document. I can navigate through the document. So if I wanted to see the concurring opinion, I can click concurring opinion and go right there. Dissenting opinion. If someone has cited to a particular page, I can type in that page number and hit go, and it takes me right to where that page begins. In the text, it's marked by an asterisk and page number. So instead of you having to scroll through trying to find that asterisk and page number, you can hit go to, type in the page number, and go directly to where that page begins. And you can see it kind of points out where it is as well. Once you're in the document, if you want to search for additional search terms, if you use that little magnifying glass, that allows you to search for additional search terms. So if you ran sort of a broad level search and now you want to see, well, does it also talk about this issue? I can run a search within the document. I can also, from my result list, I can run a search within my results that would search all of the documents, whereas this magnifying glass is only searching in this one particular document. And then if you're in this document and you like it and you want to save it to a research folder, once you're in here, you would just click this little folder button, and then you can go in. You'll have a default folder that's your name and research like you see here. And we'll cover this in just a second, you can create as many folders as you want. You can organize your folders however you want. So if you wanted a folder for a main issue, and then you have 5 sub-issues related to that, you can create 5 subfolders. So however detailed you want to get in your organization, you can. And then I can just go in and select a folder, hit save, and then I've already saved that one. If I haven't already saved it, then I get, in that folder, then I get a message saying I've saved it in there. In this case, I've already saved it to that particular folder that I selected. So it's telling me I can't add a duplicate because it's already there. But if I want to create additional folders, I would just go up to the top here in folders. And then if I want it to be a main folder, just make sure my main folder is highlighted and click new. Okay. And then I would just type in a folder name. Looks like I'm getting disconnected. And then once I have a folder name, I would just hit OK, and it would create a folder. If I wanted it to be a subfolder, then I would select the main folder from the list that I want it to be a subfolder of. Again, click new and type in the folder name, and then it would be a subfolder. And then you can see, once I click on the folder, you can see the documents that you've saved in there. It tells you what the document is. So all 3 of these are cases. If I want to go to that document, I would just click on the title of the document, and it would take me right into that case. The nice thing about the electronic folders in Westlaw versus printing them out or downloading them and saving them, in a Word folder or something, is it's the live document. So if you saved this to a folder 3 months ago and the key site status of the document has changed, when you go in the folder, it has the updated key site symbol. Versus if you downloaded it and saved it in a Word folder, it's whatever it was at that point in time. So by saving it in an electronic folder, you know that your case or statute or regulation, whatever it may be, is still good law. You can export your folder. If you go into options, you can export the folder from there. There are also Westlaw apps. So if you have a iPad or Android tablet, there are apps for both of those. And you would have access to your folders in those apps. There's also an iPhone app. There's not an Android phone app yet. But there's an iPhone app too. And again, you would have access to your research that way too. But you can export either to Kindle or to your desktop, so you would have access. Those would not be live though once you export them. But you are able to export. You can also share. So if you work on different topics together, you can share a folder with the people in your group so that you're not duplicating efforts. And whoever owns the folder is able to set the permission, so you can have read only, read and add, or read, add, and delete, and different people can have different permissions. But a shared folder shows up in your sorry, I keep losing my internet connection. A shared folder shows up blue on the list, so you can see I have a shared folder right here. So that blue folder means that it's shared. And if you want to to terminate sharing, you as the owner of the folder, you can terminate sharing at any point. But to share a folder, you just select the folder that you want, go into options, select share, put in the email address of the people that you want to share with, and they'll get an email saying you want to share a folder with them. And then once they accept, then you'll get a confirmation that you're now sharing the folder. And then I mentioned a couple of times saving things to favorites. If you do save things to favorites, this is where they appear over here on the right-hand side of your screen. I have a ridiculous number of favorites because I show people how to add them all the time. So hopefully you wouldn't have that many favorites there. But you can go in and you can organize them. So you can move things around. Like if I wanted Earhart's first, I can drag it up here to the top. And then once I'm done, I can hit done organizing, and now it's locked in. So I can drag things around. I can create groups. You can say I have Florida materials, federal. I used to have Mississippi, and so I have Mississippi materials in there. So you can divide things up based on, jurisdiction or secondary sources versus primary law, whatever you want to do. But you can break things up so it's not just one big running list there. And then this is a way you can actually search. You can click on the link and go directly into the source. Or if you want to create sort of a custom collection to search, like you did in classic Westlaw, where you would check off, I want to search, Florida evidence and Florida admin code and whatever. So you can go into your favorites and say, I want to search these 3 sources, and then type in a search here in the favorites and just search those 3 sources. This search is a terms and connectors driven search, though, so you'll have to use Boolean. So, this word within the same sentence or within the same paragraph, or 3 words. Whereas at the top, you can use Boolean if you want, but you can also just put in a plain language search, and it runs the search that way. Does somebody have a question over here? Okay, sorry, I thought I saw a hand going up. So once you've saved something to your favorites, you can search it directly, or you can go into the table of contents just by, if it's a print publication, just by clicking on the title. So now if I wanted to run my search, I can just run a search there, or I can go in and let's say I did just want to search Earhart's. I can come in here and click Florida evidence. And now run a search, and I'm just searching across Earhart's, or I can expand and search at the chapter level, at the section level, at the subsection, and get right into sources that way. And then you can also, on the right, you can see there's an index there. So if you wanted to search via the index, you're able to do that as well. This is showing you the most recent 10 results, but I can run a word search there as well. Okay, so another sort of non-traditional way to search is you're able to search the digest. So instead of doing a term search, you can come in again under Tools and click on West Key Number System. And so you can find a topic and key number from the digest. So if you like doing book style research, this is the way that you can do it online. You can come in, and again, if I type a search up here at the top, it's going to search the entire digest. Or if I want to narrow down, let's say I just want to search education. Now if I type in a search, it's searching just topic 141E. Or again, I can narrow down if I wanted to search at this level and search all of those key numbers, I would just put a check here, or I can go in and expand and eventually get to where there is a key number and go directly into that more narrow topic. So you can do kind of a combination where you're doing book style at first and then run a search across several sections of the document or the source that you're searching, or you can continue to drill down until you get to a specific key number. And when you go into the key number, it's based on the jurisdiction that you have selected. And so you can see here, this is Fifth Circuit before the split. So 11th Circuit does include the Fifth Circuit before the split. And we've got this one case here dealing with our key number validity of statutes. So what kind of sources are you typically using the most? And we can cover statutes, okay. So to go into the statutes, if you wanted to just search the statutes instead of searching everything, you can go in, click on the statutes and court rules. Again, I would recommend saving to your favorites if it's something that you're going in a lot. This may be something of interest to you, the 50 state statutory surveys. If you've ever created a 50 state survey, you know that it can take weeks to create. And these are already prepared for you. So I can go in and just click on a topic, or I can run a search if I'm not seeing my topic right away. And here is the survey already done for you. And it gives you all of the statutes. It helps you not have to know the specific terms that Alabama used versus what Tennessee used versus what Wyoming used. It gives you all of those sections for you. And you can see it's broken down by state. Depending on the survey, most of the time there's a chart that you can download. And it has a summary of those statutes as well. It's not just the link to the statutes. So, if you're working on this issue in Florida and you want to see how other jurisdictions have handled things or language that they've used or things you want to stay away from, this is a nice way to get it all in one complete package instead of you having to go out and searching all the jurisdictions and trying to figure out what terms they used and worry about, did I miss this one, or whatever the case may be. It's all right there for you. And if that's something of interest to you, again, you might want to save it to your favorites so you have a quick link to jump in there. That was when from the main screen, I went into statutes and court rules. And then on the right under tools and resources, it's the first one there, 50 state statutory survey. It's kind of the result. It's kind of like the 50 state surveys in a way. It's the product of legal research. So the practical law team is a team of over 150 attorneys that we have that their job is just to research specific topics. And they go through and update usable work product. So, if you're developing a social media policy for the workplace, it goes in and says, these are the statutes that regulate this. This is a change that just happened. It has editor's notes to the documents that you would use for that. There's presentations. So if you're doing a presentation regarding social media policy, there's a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation in there that has, all of the things that you need to cover, as who can post things on behalf of the agency on the social media site and things like that. So it's whereas most of Westlaw is research or results. This is the results of research, so research applied. And so it's kind of like having a group of 150 attorneys doing work for you and having it there with guidance and checklists and things like that. And so if you don't see exactly what you're looking for on this screen, you can run a search and maybe the terms that you're looking for in a document, and it would search in the text of the document as well. And so if you don't know what something is, if you go into it and click this little I, that's the scope icon, and that gives you information about the source. So the coverage begins in May 1951, and then if I expand the content, it tells me what's included. You can create alerts. We're going to cover those in one of the other classes, but yes, you can create a key set alert, which would monitor a specific citation, or you can create a West clip, which monitors a particular issue. Are you talking about like the real-time ticker and lobby tools? Okay. We don't have lobby tools in here, but we do have, and it's not real. The alerts aren't real time, but you can create alerts. So, any other questions? All right. Well, we've kind of flown through the first class there. For CLE credit, the first course is Basic Westlaw. It's for 1 hour of general or technology credit. And the course number is 160412 N as in Nancy. And I think there's some of these sheets at the door when you came in, but that has the course number in there. And the next class will start at 1 o'clock. So if you're coming to the intermediate course, we'll go over things there, and we'll get into searching. This was just a really kind of basic introductory to make sure that you knew how to sign on and do the very basics. So one thing I'll mention just in closing is if you scroll down to the end of the screen, or the bottom of the screen, I kind of briefly mentioned it at the beginning, the training and support, that will allow you to go in and you can do self-guided tutorials, or they run like 3 to 5 minutes. So you can go in and do these little video tutorials. You can also contact the reference attorneys, or you can schedule a custom training where someone does a WebEx with you, and you can say, these are the things that I'm trying to do, and they can walk you through. So you don't have to leave your office. You can just sit there and call in and view their WebEx. You can also download user guides from this page as well. So you can see all the user guides here that you can download. There's one, actually I just saw there's one in here on creating alerts. So if you want to just listen to the high level part of it in the class and then go in and get the details, you can download that. And then there's also at the bottom of the screen, at the bottom of every screen is the number for the reference attorneys. They're a free service. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they can help you with anything from how do I sign on to where would I find this, or what term should I use to find this, what source should I look in. And they'll run searches with you over the phone and help you find what you're looking for. Or if you don't want to call in, you can also do live chat. So, and that's on the bottom of every screen.